Hi everybody, Happy New Year! I'm Luke Hector from The Broken Meeple, and if you like what you see, please remember to leave a thumbs up on the video when you're done, and leave a comment to discuss what I've been talking about in this video, because I like to engage with you on a personal level. And don't forget that the Patreon campaign is always running if you want to help support this channel into the future. Whew! Right, so we are done with Christmas. I had a break over that time where I wasn't doing any content. I needed to just shut down from the blog for a while to avoid burnout. And it was kind of needed. You know, I needed the break with the family and it was all good. But Christmas is done, it's behind us, so now it's time to, move on with 2022. Now this is a list that I don't normally do because I always seem to think, well, I'm more critical of games now. I don't generally look forward to a ton of games coming out. I'm just like hopeful that they'll be good. But everybody keeps asking me to do this list, everybody else does one, they're super popular, so it's like, alright, fine, I will do not just one, but two lists on this subject this time. So we're talking about my top 10 most anticipated games, hopefully, releasing in 2022, but I'm also going to do a subsequent video on my top 5 or 10, depending on the number, expansions anticipated in 2022. And on top of that, I've got a solo games list to do with Mark Dainty. I'm going to do a couple of other top 10s when I get the chance. Oh yeah, I'm really going to try and migrate with these top 10s going forward because they're what you come here to see for the most part. But yeah, I don't normally do this, but I figured, you know what, I'll be nice. And so this year I thought, why not? Let's make a change. It's a new start, it's 2022, so let's do what the fans want to see. So these are 10 games that I'm looking forward to in 2022 based on Board Game Geek's 2022 timeline. Yes, I know it's a bit ironic using Board Game Geek for a metric because I don't normally like using them for any other kind of metric, but there's all I have to go on really. We've got shipping crises, we've got Brexit, we've got all sorts of international problems when it comes to production, assembly and shipping of games, that it's impossible to really dictate when a game's going to release. So we kind of just have to go with Board Game Geek as an estimate by looking at the brackets and saying, does it say 2022? Then it counts. Otherwise, how else are you going to do this list? So based on Board Game Geek, these are 2022 games. If they are 2023 or 2021, I can't really consider them for this list. It's just the way it has to be. Gotta keep it simple. So without further ado, get on with it. Now it certainly goes without saying that most of these games are going to be Kickstarter because that's kind of the games you're looking forward to, the ones that you backed with your own money. But not all of these are. This one is a Kickstarter though, and it almost didn't make the list because I was disappointed with the previous iteration of this type of game. This is from Lucky Duck Games and it's called Divinus. I think that's how you pronounce it, Divinus. And this is essentially like a pseudo-sequel to what Destiny's was from 2021. Yeah, it was 2021, I believe. But the thing is, I was a bit disappointed with Destiny's. It tried to be a storytelling, narrative, competitive game. It didn't work, in my opinion. I thought it was okay, but the story wasn't particularly that interesting. The time trial thing that you did in solo mode was just ridiculous. I mean, literally you had to do everything perfect in order to succeed at it. And then I just didn't particularly like the competitive side of it. The idea that everybody's going off on their own little stories and it's just who manages to get lucky with their story the fastest. It's like, meh, I don't know. But there was certainly a good foundation there to build on, and I'm hoping Divinus builds on that foundation. I've played a prototype copy, which I did do a preview of earlier in 2021, and it's essentially a similar deal. It's competitive storytelling, but it's based on kind of Norse mythology and like Persians and things like that, and basically you start off with a very basic map, but then what you do is that you actually create your map in like Carcassonne style, but you're putting little stickers on them with little pictures that the scanner can read on your phone. You can trigger different story events, you can side with one of 3 different factions, and depending on what you do, opens up new locations and new story elements. I've only played a couple of scenarios in it, but it had premise, and a lot of reason why I'm looking forward to this is because I have a group of friends who are waiting for me to play it. We played Destiny's and we thought, nah, not too great. I showed them the prototype of this, they enjoyed it, probably even more so than I did. I mean, I enjoyed it, of course, but, they enjoyed it much more. So we're looking forward to getting a copy of this from the Kickstarter, playing it 4-player, going through the whole campaign, and yeah, it should be a good laugh. But it's mostly because of the group that it's definitely on my top 10 anticipated games, because otherwise Destiny's might have left a little bit of a sour note in my mouth. But as I say, I'm hopeful that this one's going to be an improvement. You had the foundation, now let's make the really good game from it. Everything's got to start from somewhere. So Lucky Duck Games, don't mess this one up, Divinus. My number 9 I've had some experience with, although only with episode 2. Yeah, it's Perseverance from Mindclash Games. Now, a lot of this is down to pedigree. I love the games that Mindclash have done. I love Dracarion, I love Cerebria, and I love Anachrony. All three of them are on my shelf and they're in my top 100. They're games I love. So anything from Mindclash is probably going to get a bit of a thumbs up from me. But that's to be said, I have to try them out first. This is a 2-episode series of games based on dinosaurs where you essentially go to an island and you're trying to study these dinosaurs, live amongst them, but also trying to set up your own little colony.
But your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
But there's 2 different games, so one of them is kind of like your initial arrival and the other one is you've settled and now you're trying to deal with everything else. I've only played a prototype version of the 2nd episode. I haven't even tried the first one, but I love dinosaurs, so the theme's already there for me. Mindclash do fantastic strategic games for me. I did enjoy my play of episode 2. I thought it was really good fun. Complex, as all Mindclash games are, but still good fun. And I'm hopeful that this one will give me 2 solid Euro games to continue their current uphill streak, which they currently have for me. Now, Voidfall is slated for a 2023 release, so that is not on this list and not eligible. But I did play a round of that and I did enjoy it enough to back it, although that one is, I hope I'm going to get the chance to even play that game, let alone, get a good experience with it. But Perseverance, I should be able to get to the table pretty well. The only thing that worries me with this is the idea that I'm getting 2 episodes and I'm worried that one episode is going to be the one that I pull out and the other one's going to get left behind. We'll have to see, but it's Mindclash Games. They know what they're doing with big, heavy, thematic Euro games, so, here's hoping. My number 8 comes from Burnt Island Games, and it's a sequel, prequel, hard to tell really. It's the 2nd game in this line, but it's a prequel to the game that came before it. It's going to get confusing. This is Fall of the Mountain King. I have Hall of the Mountain King on my shelf. Thank you viewers for recommending that game to me. I did enjoy it, you were correct.
Ah, smug mode.
Pat yourselves on the back. But this is essentially a prequel to those. So in Hall of the Mountain King, your trolls building caverns and the gnomes are kind of telling you what to do. Well, Fall of the Mountain King is the initial invasion of the gnomes where they conquered the trolls. You don't actually fend the gnomes back, you've basically got to do it for as long as possible while controlling areas of the board and being the most honourable of all the trolls. Look, we lost this war, but we were the clan who did the best job at fending off the gnomes. But it's a really fun area control game. It's really in your face, really interactive. You can get across the board by multiple ways. You got lots of different troll chieftains that you can grab with different special abilities, which is cool. The rules are not particularly complex, and there's this very mechanically abstract but cool little tile placement system where you overlay these cards as you grab them. I think it's cards or tiles, I can't remember, I was playing it on Tabletop Simulator. But you overlay these cards on top of each other to create patterns or different icons, and these icons allow you to perform different actions. It's kind of a bit similar to what Smartphone Inc. and Honshu and Hokkaido, those sort of games, and that in itself is a really cool engaging puzzle, but from that you've got to do all the stuff on the area control. I enjoyed my play of it. I played it with the designers, I believe, the designer and the publisher, and it was a good, solid, fun game, so I'm looking forward to getting a nice Kickstarter version of it with deluxe components and getting this one to the table, being one that I would be willing to play with multiple players. I don't know how many players it will go up to, but hopefully a decent amount. And of course, with that Kickstarter also comes the upgrade kit for Hall of the Mountain King, which I badly want. So yeah, 2 things I'm looking forward to this one. But honestly, the game was pretty solid and definitely worth checking out if area control is your thing.
Well, I like war, but I wouldn't say I love it.
For my number 7, you remember what I said with Mindclash games about pedigree? Oh my word, this is pretty much entirely pedigree. I know so little about this game, it's unreal. And one thing I will stipulate before people get me in the comments, I don't like playing pre-prototype versions of games for the most part, and I certainly don't like going on Tabletop Simulator to try out a pre-Kickstarter version of a game before it's done. I do it occasionally, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I want to play the game when it's released, fully developed and fully realized. So I get that some of the games on this list might be ones that I could go out and play if I was really desperate. But this one, not a chance. But I'm putting this on the list because, let's face it, the history of this publisher has been pretty good. Garphill Games, this is Wayfarers of the South Tigris, or Tigris, I forget how you pronounce it. But this is slated for a 2022 release, and this is the first in a new trilogy of games. So I've got Architects on the shelf there with West Kingdom, so you had Architects, Paladins and Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Architects and Viscounts are two of my most beloved midweight Euros ever. Paladins I've burnt out on, but like I say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, especially when 2 of them are so highly rated for me. And you've also got Raiders as well, which was another brilliant one from the previous North Sea trilogy. So yes, not every single game they produce is brilliant, but a new trilogy of midweight Euros definitely is getting me excited. You know, do I care about it being set in early AD Baghdad area? No, not really, but then let's face it, theme wasn't exactly the strongest suit of these ones either, but it's another game that I'm hoping will be solid in this lineup because I enjoy midweight Euros more than heavy and light Euros because I feel I can teach them to more people, but they still give me enough of a challenge to the brain. So the idea that we got a new one that's going to have like 3 different guilds that you influence, science, politics and trade, you're mapping out areas, so perhaps there's going to be some map building, perhaps there'll be a bit of a your own personal tableau of stuff. I honestly don't know. All we have is a description on BGG at the moment to say what this game is about. All I know though is that when it comes to midweight Euros, Garphill Games do a really solid job, and I am hopeful that they do a solid job with this one as well, and the other 2 to follow. I mean, I don't want this to be like Raiders where it's mainly Raiders and not necessarily the other 2. I want this to be like a perfect trilogy. Like this is, please let this be a trilogy that I can go, all 3 games are fantastic and not just 1 or 2 of them. But yep, I'm definitely excited for another one. I don't know if this is getting a Kickstarter. I think it might just be getting a retail, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely excited to see where they can take what they've learned from these games, which are already pretty solid, and take it one step further. For my number 6, I think this game was actually meant to come out in 2021. I think it got delayed for several reasons, so this is now hopeful for a 2022 release. This is a story-driven narrative game of survival in a horror setting of Norse mythology called Hell: The Last Saga from Mythic Games. This one you would have heard Sam Healy from the host on the Dice Tower rave on about this game. And to be honest, if they can achieve some of the stuff that they are showing that I've seen in pictures and artwork and that, then this will be a surefire hit for me. I want this to be on the levels of something like Tainted Grail for me. Like really good immersive world, some more robust mechanics. And Tainted Grail has some issues in 1 or 2 places, but I want some robust mechanics and a really good setting. And Norse mythology, I'm like, oh god, another Norse game. But this is more horror Norse mythology setting. So you've got all these weird creatures, like something you might see out of the Witcher series, and they look gruesome, they look like, oh my god, this is scary stuff. But you've also got to survive against like the hellish cold and, get food and rations, hunt. And the idea that this is going to have branching paths depending on what choices you make, as well as a decent amount of replay value because of the unique way you replay missions. There's a lot of good promises here. If they can meet them, this will be fantastic. But I am definitely in the mood for another really good, dark, gritty, story-driven game. I mean, I love dark, gritty settings, much more than the light-hearted stuff. Tainted Grail, this war of mine, another one we'll get onto eventually. Hell: The Last Saga is going to fit that nice little category for me. I just think dark, gritty stories are more interesting. The choices are more meaningful. It's not like necessarily, oh, this is the good and this is the bad decision. Nah, it's a little bit grey in certain areas. It's just, those ones really grab me. So yeah, a horror game, if they can meet my expectations, this will be really solid. But let's just hope it doesn't get delayed until 2023, because it's already been delayed a year at this point. I would like the game soon, please. Let me play it.
I hate waiting.
For my number 5, this and one other are probably going to be the first 2 games that actually get released in 2022, so hopefully I'll be able to actually play this quite soon. But this is coming from a publisher who has already made some really solid games. Like, they haven't, I think, made any bad ones. I'm not saying I own all of them, but I give praises to all of the things they've done, and this is Elf Creek Games' new one called Merchants of the Dark Road. I already have Atlantis Rising on my shelf. I don't own Honey Buzz, but I give it props. It's a solid game and so well produced for what is a retail version of a game. I mean, you know, yes, it came out on Kickstarter, but the fact that the retail box has all that cool stuff in it, props to Elf Creek. They know how to make a game look gorgeous, and this is no exception. Merchants of the Dark Road looks gorgeous when you see the imagery that's used for it, but the mechanics of it and the theme that you're doing also sounds really different. You are a merchant trader and you're trying to make the most money, but it's not just boring, simple economics. You've got to travel along these different roads and be worried about, like, you know, monsters and robbers and stuff. You've got to hire heroes to go with you. You've obviously got to try and make the best merchant deal, but you've got to try and survive against whatever nasty stuff is out there. And when you do your score at the end, it's the lower of two aspects. The money that you make, but also the fame that you have. Because it's no good saying I've made the most money if everybody thinks you're a coward and won't sing stories about you, but then it's no good being the bravest one in the land if you haven't got a penny to sing for. It just, that is a really cool and interesting concept. It feels unique, feels different, and that is something I look for. Different, interesting setting. You know, it could have been literally just been boring, pick up and deliver merchants going from space to space. Whoop-de-doo. The fact that they've thrown these little twists on it with a rondel action system, which is something I usually quite like, yeah, I'm really hopeful for this one. You know, they're already on a continuing uphill streak with their well, uphill. They're on a continually good streak with their games. You know, I think I prefer Atlantis to Honeybuzz, but suffice to say, when Elf Creek put out a game, you're interested. You're like, ooh, what are they doing next? And that's the hallmark of a good publisher. So definitely excited to give this one a try. Again, not trying it online in advance. Gonna be patient, wait for it to come out and hit my doorstep, and then I'll play it then. So yeah, Merchants of the Dark Road, really looking forward to it. Now, if you want a game on my list other than my number one, where I'm like, oh my god, please work, please don't mess this up, this is definitely like one of the top ones there. This has the capacity to be a catastrophe, like complete rubbish. But please do not be rubbish, because you have the pedigree of a good publisher. You have the hallmarks of a game that I enjoy. Come on. Please don't mess this up. I want a really solid 4X space strategy game. Twilight Imperium is too long. Eclipse is too boring. You motherfucker! Was it Empires of the Void 2 isn't really 4X enough, and I still love it. I want a proper space 4X strategy game, and Stellaris is hopefully the one that is going to do it. If you're not familiar with PC gaming, Stellaris is a space strategy game made by Paradox Interactive, and it's playable on PC. I'm not sure if you can play it on console, I don't think so, but it's a space game that I play every now and again with some friends. We play it multiplayer for a laugh, and I sometimes play it single player as well. It's very addictive, very complicated. I do wish the diplomacy system was a bit more robust, because like with all these 4X games, it seems that diplomacy always gets left by the wayside and it just encourages you to go conquer everything, which is annoying. But Academy Games is working with Paradox to bring a space 4X board game version of Stellaris. So you're going to be able to meet different alien races.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
You're going to have asymmetric powers. You're going to be able to do diplomatic. You're going to be able to do, like, you know, build a fleet of ships and go conquer. You're going to go explore. There's going to be, you know, civics and government you've got to set. There's going to be all that really cool, complex stuff from the video game in this board game. Doesn't exactly look the best game, I must admit, aesthetically so far, but then Academy Games aren't really known for that. Pedigree though, Academy Games know how to take a fairly complex theme and make it stay true to its theme. Because remember, they did Freedom the Underground Railroad, and that was a very controversial theme. That could have easily gone south for them if they weren't careful. But they made a very good game and they respected the theme. So I'm hoping that based on their credibility, they'll be able to do a similar really good job representing the Stellaris theme. But it could also bomb. This has, you know, they're promising a lot. It's got a lot of moving parts. It could become too long. It could become too complicated. I don't know. It really is just going to be a case of I get the game and hope that it works, because otherwise I'll just have to go back to the PC version. But as I say, really excited to try a proper 4X space game. Stellaris is a game that I'm already going to be like noticing the Easter eggs of. It's just, oh my word, this is such like, oh, you are on a tightrope here. It's like you could get to the end of the tightrope and, you know, everybody will praise you, or you could fall off and land on your face and I'll be very disappointed. So yeah, don't mess it up. So as you've seen, most of these games are Kickstarter releases. This one isn't. This one was straight to retail. You could pre-order it off their website. It's probably going to be the first game off this entire list that's going to arrive for me. Very excited because, let's face it, the track record of this guy is insane. And this guy is a machine. This guy is able to do artwork, publishing, design, soundtracks, you name it, this guy can do it. It is a one-man machine that makes board games. This is Ryan Luckett, Red Raven Games, and of course I'm talking about Now or Never. Now or Never is kind of like a, well, upcoming sequel effectively to Near and Far, which was itself a kind of upgrade of Above and Below. You know, he's certainly continuing with this kind of name streak. But not a huge amount I know about this, apart from the fact that you're building up a village on another cool landscape in this submersive world that he's created with gorgeous art, always looks the business. Aside from that, I don't know much else. I think this is going to be a slightly heavier game than Near and Far as well, but a group of friends of mine loved Near and Far when we were playing it together, so they're very eager to try this one, and honestly, so am I. It's another game by Ryan Luckett, of course I want to try it. It looks really cool. It's got like really good production quality from the stuff we've been shown. It looks gorgeous artwork wise. Hopefully this is a really good game, but, you know, Near and Far was amazing, so Now or Never should hopefully be amazing too. Like I say, it's high up on the list because I'm really anticipating it, and some of that might have to do with the fact that it's going to be one of the first ones to arrive soon. Like, we're already getting told it's either like being dispatched, or it's en route, or it's about to be sent. Like I say, hopefully at some point in January I will have this game, but who knows, you know, shipping crisis and everything. But yeah, it's Red Raven Games, it's Ryan Luckett. Of course I'm looking forward to it. My number 2 I would expect to be very high at a lot of people's lists, and a lot of this is mainly down to the fact that the designer has made a certain underrated gem that I really like, but also the game looks gorgeous. It looks like a really good set of production quality. It also has all the mechanics I love rolled into one. This is Endless Winter Paleo Americans, and whatever the tagline Paleo Americans, I'm just calling it Endless Winter. But this one, I don't know a huge amount about how it works. Again, I don't go and play these things in advance, but it's the designer Stan has also done Old West Empresario, which is another game that doesn't get anywhere near enough love, but I think is a really solid city building game. Fantasia Games have done some really good stuff in the past, but this one has got like a mix of worker placement and deck building, so it's kind of like giving me a kind of Lost Ruins of Arnak feel, but then it's also apparently got some like bank building in it from places. It also allows you to save cards till the end of a round to do other effects, which kind of feels a bit like doing Imperium in that respect. This is creating like a smorgasbord, like a salad of mechanics, all of which I like. You know, it's taking a lot of my favorite mechanics and shoving them into a bowl and saying, this is the game. That could be a recipe for disaster, because when you try and throw too much into the plate, it could be too complex for its own good, or like not enough gels well. But then other games like Viscounts and Lost Ruins of Arnak and a few others have done this and done it really, really well. So this one also has the potential to do well. The game looks cool. As I say, Fantasia Games have got a good pedigree behind them. The designer, granted, I've not played Rurik, which is one they've done, and I can't remember what else he's designed, something else I haven't played, but Old West Empresario really surprised me, so I'm hoping that this one will as well. But yeah, just all those mechanics that I like put together. Come on, give me an innovative game using these mechanics in new ways. That's definitely what I'm excited for. Now, my number 1, it was pretty easy to do my number 1, but I reckon this would be the number 1, if not number 2 and 3, for the vast majority of people. A lot of people back this one, a lot of people are excited, and I can see why. Endless Winter. And my number 1 was no contest. Honestly, when I came up with this list, it's like, right, this is my number 1 and I'll think of the rest, because it really was not even like a moment's consideration. It is easily going to be one of the most anticipated games, I think, of this year. If it releases this year, it could be delayed into 2023, we don't know, but ah yes, I'm looking for this. Rich immersive theme, story-driven, branching paths, based on a system that's already proven to be great. It is, of course, Frosthaven. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Who's been messing with my list? honestly, constantly getting ninjas infiltrating my establishment and trying to mess around with my list. No, no, no. This is not Frosthaven. No, 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 no. We already had that. It was called Gloomhaven. We are talking about Frostpunk. Frostpunk is basically going to be like a sister to this war of mine. This is another great video game. I love this war of mine. Frostpunk's also a really great PC game where you're trying to survive in this hellish winter landscape. You've got a big generator in the middle that's generating heat barely with the fuel you put in it, but you're trying to build up the settlement and you have to constantly make story branching decisions about what you do with the people. And this is, like this war of mine, very dark and very gritty, very controversial stuff. You are going in the video game trying to decide whether you're going to put kids in like like daycare centers, which is a drain on everybody else's resource, or put them in your factories in order to work and help you with your research. Spoiler alert, always put them in your factories. It works a lot better. Hey, wait, what? Seriously, they got to do work, okay? But you know, that's the sort of like decisions you make in the game. You have to decide whether you're going to use people as effectively resources, or you know, whether you're going to make very humanitarian decisions or go very militant. Are you going to start like a religious cult? Are you going to impose law and order? You're going to have fighting pits? Are you going to like have brothels? There's all sorts of pretty dark, gritty stuff you do in that game. To have a board game of this is going to be so good. It looks amazing from the production images that we're seeing in terms of like the models they're creating, but it's being designed by Glass Cannon Unplugged. I think the designers and some of the people working on it are kind of like a spin-off from Awakened Realms, so it's already got some pedigree as to like, oh, we know how to make a really good immersive game. But yeah, if this is anything like the video game, it's going to be amazing. It's going to have rich immersive theme, great look, great artwork, great storytelling, great meaningful, meaty decisions that you've got to make, choices that have consequences, which is something that is missing from a lot of story games. You don't feel that your choice made much of a difference. Pretty certain if you get a decision about whether you should let this person live or die to appease this lot or this lot, it's going to have pretty meaningful changes and decisions. But just get some good robust mechanics around it and you could create one of my favorite games of the year. It has that potential. The PC game is already great. Granted, I've kind of burnt out on it now because I've played all the content it has. But oh yeah, such a good game. Such a good series. Oh, it could really work. Come on. Don't mess this up. I am really hopeful that you get this right. But if you do, then this war of mine had better worry because it's going to have some competition. So there you go, there's my 10 most anticipated games of 2022. There's a few others I considered. Station Full. The premise sounds really cool, but if you look at the images on Board Game Geek, ugh, it kind of reminds me of Beyond the Sun in terms of its graphic design and like how bad it looks. Ugh. But the premise of a social deduction heavy game with multiple asymmetric roles, kind of like Among Us the board game, could be really cool. There was a game that apparently was on the 2021 list for the Dice Tower called Vagrant Song, but it's on 2022 and according to Board Game Geek. It's kind of confusing, but you know, about being on a ghostly train, a co-op adventure. Sounds pretty cool. I'm definitely interested in it. And of course, there's ones that I've looked at in previous times, like, you know, we've got Eternal Palace from Alley Cat Games coming next time. We've got, what was it? There'll be Dice Theme Hospital. There'll be Circadian's Chaos Order that I looked at before. There'll be the Football 11 Manager game from Portal coming next year. So there's a few interesting next year, this year. Gotta get it right. I'm recording this on the 31st of December to talk about 2022. It's kind of weird. But yeah, you know, 10 anticipated games that I'm looking forward to. Do you agree with this list? I want to know what you're looking forward to in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, and obviously don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you can. Of course, I'll be doing more lists this month, so that you can look forward to my anticipated expansions, which I'll definitely do to support this one. And of course, I'm in talks with Mark Dainty from Not Board Gaming to talk about our top 10 solo games. Yes, I'm finally, after 3 years, doing an update to that list. By popular demand, it's gonna happen in January, so be on the lookout for that. Until next time though, you can check out more content on The Broken Meeple, including my top 10 of 2021. Thank you so much for getting the viewing figures up on that one, believe me. Or you can find out my thoughts on Ark Nova, one of the most hyped up games of 2021 by far. Until next time, remember as always, have a happy new year. Here's to 2022. It's only a game. Bye for now.